Do not vote in the midterms, and if you do, vote for Democrats.
Okay, so I think that MAGA's actually kind of cooked on this one after Trump, in all of his infinite wisdom, decided to bomb Iran over the weekend, pulling the US into another pointless, bloody war in the Middle East. So much so that many MAGA influencers are going to social media to publicly lambash the President of the United States and even calling for his removal, and even in the case of far-right neo-Nazi Nick Fuentes, urging his fellow Groyper supporters to not even vote in the midterm elections, and if they do, to vote for Democrats. Yeah, it's that bad. MAGA is just tearing itself apart. So we're going to take a look at some of the best moments from MAGA land over the weekend, as well as talk about the implications of what this fissure means for the midterm season, as well as for Donald Trump personally. And let me tell you right now, it's not too good. So, Nick Fuentes bashed Trump in his decision over the weekend in a searing takedown. So, let's take a look at that.
The movement is something else now. And what we need in 2028, this is our last chance, we need in 2026 for this administration to be shut the fuck down. What does this administration do other than cover up the Epstein files, embezzle money through government contracts, and bring us to war for Israel? This administration needs to be shut down immediately.
Now, before you go thinking that Fuentes is some sort of radical progressive, or he's like, yes, he's anti-Trump now, let's go. The reason that Nick Fuentes is no longer such a supporter of Donald Trump is that Trump isn't, racist enough. He isn't xenophobic enough. He isn't anti-Semitic enough, right? Nick Fuentes is insane, right? He is a very far-right extremist neo-Nazi character, right? His main gripe with Trump is that he's not putting America first, white America. He's not putting white Americans first. That's his main gripe with Trump. And just for extra proof of that, take a look at this clip right here.
This administration needs to be shut down immediately. It has forfeited its mandate. They promise no new wars. They promise mass deportations in America first. And we're not getting any of it. So shut it down.
Right, so he's mad at Trump for not deporting enough people. He wanted more deportations, right? Fuentes is mad at Trump for not going far enough, which if you're living in the reality with every single other person, I think Trump's deportations were plenty far enough. Way too far, actually. Way too far. Way too far, mind you. But according to Fuentes, not far enough. So that's the character we're dealing with here. But listen, at this point, it's a lose-lose for Trump, right? Because either he angers the far right wing of the Republican Party, the Fuenteses, and all of his supporters and people like him and the Alex Joneses and that side of the party for not going far right enough, or he angers everyone else by appealing to them and going too far right. So either way, he's losing supporters, he's losing mass support, and I'm all for it, frankly, right? And I've said this before, and I will say it again and again and again, let them fight, right? Let them divide themselves, let them tear themselves apart. But going back to Fuentes for a second, though, and then we will move on from him, I promise that he is a cretin. He can't even keep his morals straight in the situation, right? Because he wants no new wars. He says war with Iran is bad. We have to put America first. And yet he says this about Mexico the same day.
But I do think that we should go in there and restore order. Could you imagine if Mexico was safe? It would just be like infinite vacation. Imagine if Mexico was safe, we could colonize Mexico and then just like be digital nomads. Everybody with money could just move down there for dirt cheap and live stream.
He's just so deranged, right? So insane. No war with Iran, but let's colonize Mexico and take it over, actually. Let's do that. How about no war? How about no new wars? How about not going to war at all, Fuentes? Seems like a good idea. How about that? What do you think? But Fuentes isn't the only one criticizing Trump in this moment, right? He's not the only one. Here is Candace Owens just laying into Donald Trump over his actions in Iran.
And Trump, by the way, for taking a look at him, he had been extremely vocal in the past for years, by the way, before he even ran for president, about the disaster of our foreign policy in the Middle East. He specifically called out Barack Obama back in 2011 for what he deemed to be an unnecessarily looming conflict with, well, you guessed it, Iran. The never-ending war and the never-ending excuses for why we have to go to war is not America first. And you know that. You can't just say stuff, Trump, and expect us to accept it.
So that is not only Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes who have directly called out Trump by name, furious at him for sending troops and weaponry and money and time and energy, just wasting all of it in another forever war. For what? Right? For what? For regional stability? What? Because there's nothing stabilizing about what we're doing in Iran right now. It's It's pure insanity, and MAGA is even recognizing it, right? And maybe Trump wouldn't listen to someone like Candace Owens or like Nick Fuentes because they are part of the more radical wing of the Republican Party, right? They're much far more farther right or have, different politics than Trump. And Candace Owens has been attacking Erica Kirk and Charlie Kirk and Charlie Kirk's wife and all these things. But what about Charlie Kirk? What about Trump's close personal friend who he had for many years, Charlie Kirk? Before his assassination, what was Charlie Kirk saying about Iran, the man who was just honored at the State of the Union? What were his ideas about an invasion of Iran?
President Trump understands his base extraordinarily well. He knows that his base does not want another Iraq. He does not want Libya, does not want a civil war or bedlam where the United States is left carrying the bag. But also President Trump has been morally clear for a decade. Iran should not have a nuclear weapon. And President Trump has the talent, the expertise to be able to thread that needle.
Huh. Well, that's crazy because Trump just seemed to prove Charlie completely wrong about his ideas. Clearly, he does not have the talent to thread any sort of needle, right? He went to war with Iran, something Charlie Kirk was vehemently against and believed Trump would never do because it is such bad policy that no one on the party would agree with. And Charlie Kirk even said that. He even says later that many people in their 20s and 30s and 40s are very anti-war, very against going into another war in the Middle East. And he says he has faith in Trump. He can do it. He can thread the needle. Well, clearly he freaking can't. Just really exceptional work from Trump here at controlling and understanding your base. This is a large percentage of the MAGA movement, right? People like Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, and many more, right? There's other large percentages of the MAGA movement who are not happy with Trump right now over many different things, but now especially his idiotic invasion of Iran. He's not just being criticized by these few people that we've been pointing out, right? He's also being criticized by other ex-friends of his, former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has had a big switch up on Trump. She says in a tweet, "We said no more foreign wars, no more regime change. We said it on a rally stage after rally stage, speech after speech. Trump advanced basically the entire admin campaigned on it and promised to put America first and make America great again. My generation has been let down, abused, and used by our government our entire adult lives, and our children's generation is literally being abandoned," right? That tweet that she has goes on and on, right? She has a lot to say about the situation, and she is very upset with Trump because, yeah, she did campaign, and the entire Republican Party campaigned on not doing this. We've seen clip after clip of Trump being like, "I'm not going to go to war with Iran, no more wars," and yet here we are, we're bombing Iran. Great work. But it's not just Marjorie Taylor Greene. Here's Matt Walsh, another conservative commentator, influencer, fascist-leaning individual, not a great guy, but he's also not a fan. He says, "What exactly is the end game? The Iranian people rise up and take control of their government? Okay, what does that mean exactly? Which people? How are they taking control?" He's questioning the government here, right? He's questioning Donald Trump, someone who he has basically pledged his allegiance to. He's saying, are we sure about this? This is kind of insane. And this guy, if Matt Walsh isn't on your side, as a like a far right conservative, ooh, you have screwed up big time. Oh yeah, you have. And of course, I would be remiss to not talk about the only congressional representative Republican with a spine right now, that being, of course, Thomas Massie. He had made a name for himself over the release of the Epstein files with fellow Representative Ro Khanna, and he is also very against a war with Iran. He says in his tweet, "We spent $8 trillion in the Middle East. That's 100 times the annual federal spending on roads and bridges. Picture how great our country could be if we'd spent that money here. Imagine how affordable groceries and housing would be if we hadn't printed all that money." That's Thomas Massie, and he makes a great point, right? The amount of money that it was being wasted in Iran and just in the Middle East in general right now is staggering. And yeah, we could be spending that money on hospitals and roads and bridges and mass transit, high-speed rail, a better infrastructure, better healthcare, better management for children's education and child care, elderly care, veteran care, right? I could go on and on. But he makes a good point. And this thing isn't even like it's popular, right? No one wants this. Before the bombing campaign even happened, Trump was sitting at around like a 39% approval rating, hovering around the high 30s, low 40s. Can it go any lower, right? Because this is not a popular policy. Just before the attack in Iran, it was polling at only a 27% support for attacking Iran, right? That's only what it was sitting at. This is a nightmare scenario for the Republicans and the GOP at large when it comes to not only the elections, but also just in general, right? The U.S. is now tangled up in another war in the Middle East, and we started it. right? We bombed Iran, and even we have national intelligence now telling us that Iran was not planning an attack on America, and yet we're bombing them. Billions of dollars will be lost for nothing. American service members will die, among with countless Iranians, and there is no one to blame but Donald Trump and the Republican Party that still supports him. So I can't believe I'm saying this, but Fuentes and I agree on something, and it's really just this one thing.
Vote for Democrats.
Vote for Democrats. Just that one thing, though. Just that one thing. Only that one thing. That guy sucks. I hate him. But that one thing. Vote for Democrats. But I think that's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for sticking around until the end. I really appreciate it. If you like what you saw, be sure to leave a like down below, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. It would really mean the world to us here. But yeah, that's all I got time for. Thank you so much. Have a good day, and goodbye.